27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Boom. And welcome to Rambo and Frens. I'm your host, Joe Rambo. It's been a while since I gave the dude that made that intro a big fat hat tip, but he deserves it. If you are not following Anon over there on Twitter, please go follow him. He made that intro, and I don't know why, but every once in a while when I pay attention, it like makes the hair on my arms raise. That dude did an unbelievable job with that intro. Thank you very, very much, Anon. Guys, please go follow him over on Twitter at Anon. That dude rules. He makes tons of amazing videos. So welcome, everybody. I first and foremost want to do a quick house cleaning. And in that house cleaning, you know what? This is off the cuff, but I'm going to play it again. Real quick, we're still waiting for one person to show up. 2 out of 3 are here in the most amazing. I'll explain that in a minute too. I want to show the button clip one more time because there's a reason I'm going to do it. Nicholas has made over $300 because of you guys supporting him. It means everything to me. There's at least 5 of you that didn't, at least I didn't see it correctly, where an address was attached to the money that you sent. So Nicholas has already received your money, and we shipped out all the buttons, some to Australia, which is freaking cool. And there's at least 5 of you, and I don't want to say everybody's names on the air because I'm not in the business of doxing people. I may use the first names here after this, just to give you a hint to. But everybody that ordered buttons, if you could, give me an address, a good shipping address to Rambo and Frens, Frens, no I, no D. That's a hat tip to Pepe. That's a hat tip to Anons, right? Friends. At proton.me. Rambo and Frens at proton.me. Please make sure to send me an address because Nicholas is chomping at the bit to get you guys all your buttons. And he is, as I will not let him, be a fan of taking money without sending things out. And that being said, many of you just donated, and I'm going to say thank you for both of us. So Nicholas is very, very grateful for all your support. So let's play that quick before we get into the show. All right, guys, welcome to the impromptu, not really a commercial, kind of a commercial for my boy, Kid Rambo here. I don't know if you guys see the t-shirt, but this is Kim's youngest child, her only son, what has quickly become my son's brother. And he surprised me tonight. So he, actually all the kids have been talked to about potentially starting a business, right? And Nicholas is the first one to take the bull by the horns and really push and push and push to try to start something. So do you want to tell everybody what it is you surprised me with tonight, you and your mom?
Yeah, we surprised him with buttons.
Okay. What other businesses have you been trying to do?
It would have been like stickers, making shirts, or like mowing lawns.
Okay. All right, my man. So when I got home tonight, I found out that he used some photos from the Reawaken tour, which is why I wanted to get this on the air for this show, because of our guest today. So here's the photo that he stole from me and put on buttons. So this is the infamous, at this point, as far as I'm concerned, photo of the awakened outlaw, the Joe Rambo, in front of a good, bad, and the ugly poster at the, again, infamous Alley Bar from the Reawaken tour. And Nicholas went and took this photo and put it on 5 buttons. Now, I just bought these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smiley face and the most epic Donald Trump photo ever to be taken, right? Who you voting for?
I can't vote.
Who should your dad vote for?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, how many Donald Trump signs are in the front yard?
More than 20.
Okay, so these are the buttons. We have the original 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons that Nicholas has ever made. This is, how old are you, Nicholas?
10.
10 years old. And this is the first business you've ever started. Is there going to be more?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a little Don Trump Jr.?
I don't know.
All right. If anybody wants one of these buttons, look, name your price. How much did you charge me?
It was only supposed to be $3 a piece, but you bought it for $50.
You weren't supposed to tell everybody that part. I don't care what I spent. How much are the buttons?
$3.
Okay. So for $3, if you guys are interested in one of the first original 7 of the buttons that he, besides the 5 he gave to his Grammy, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly, the awakened outlaw, and Joe Rambo button. Just hit me up on Rambo and Frens .proton. What is my email?
I don't know. Shouldn't you know this?
Rambo and Frens @proton.me. If you're interested in a button, name your price. Nicholas owes what? How much more do you owe on your machine? Now that
$50.
you owe $50 more. So
Mhm.
he owes $50 more. I bought these buttons to pay for the first half. If anybody's interested, please hit us up. Awaken Outlaw. If you really want one, buddy, I love you. I'll send you the best one for free. Tell AO you love him.
Why?
Because he's awesome, and you're freaking making money off his face, bro. All right. Much love. Continue the show. We'll see you next time. All right. Let's watch it. All right. I wanted to do that real quick. Not yet again to promote more buttons, but just so you guys are aware what I'm talking about. Nicholas is killing it with the buttons. He has made a ton of money. He is excited to be able to buy Christmas presents for all of his other 4 siblings. I just wanted to put it out there that Melanie, Jesse, Bright Smiles, and Dana, I won't say last names on here, but you guys sent money to Nicholas, but I don't have an address. If you could send me a shipping address, Nicholas wants to send out those buttons. We're not as professional as this is a 10-year-old, as a, say a Tulip Blossoms or a epicminerals.net, right? So now that being said, the guests that are coming on today are, I'm very proud of this, to be honest with you. When I put my face out here in the movement, the idea was always about unity. And there's 3 people from 3 very different corners of the movement that are coming on today. And you guys have already seen 2 of them together on the show, but we're going to add a third today who has been threatening to come as of recently, because we're working on some new projects in the future. And I cannot wait to bring those projects to all you guys. So let's bring the first one on, which would be considered, I'm not even going to say that. Let's just say hi. Hey, yo, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I got to get my self unmuted. Good morning. Thank you
Good
for
morning,
having me,
dude.
buddy. Yeah, I just want to say a quick Veterans Day shout out to all the vets out there. We honor those, that are still alive and those have deceased, but, their service to our country. And, top of mind today, there's a reason why we take a moment, pause, to think about them and honor them. So if you have them in your family and you haven't done so yet, maybe drop a call, send a text message, it'd be really appreciated.
Yeah. I absolutely 100% agree with you. Thank you out there to anyone that served this country. I did forget to bring in the boss, and it's a tradition around here. So let's do that before we bring on the next two.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Surprise, Dave from NewsTreason. What's up, dude?
What's up? My God, Rambo, he hasn't even been elected a week and you're already forgetting him?
Yeah. What was his name again? What was Donald?
Dude, I'm so stoked to have you hang. Dude, this crew, let's just bring this guy. What's up, Patrick Gunnels?
Hey, how you guys doing?
PG.
How exciting is this? You guys are all from three very different corners of the internet. And for you all to show up and hang out on Rambo and Frens is an absolute freaking honor. Thank all three of you.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for thinking of me.
Different corners of the internet, but we're all patriots and we love our country. And I think it's pretty amazing because this is about unifying around Trump and his agenda. So I'm proud to be here with these guys.
Yeah,
Rambo, can I just tell a quick story? Because AO did such a good job as only he could of honoring our veterans today. And actually something pretty cool happened is on Thursday I was and again, I wish I could have been on your show. You guys had an amazing show, you and Abs and Stormy. I was sitting there screaming at my phone the whole time when I was on the train. Wanted to jump in, but it was actually very cool. Landing in New York, when we landed in New York on Thursday, the flight attendant made a point to let everyone know on the plane that it was Veterans Day weekend, and the entire plane stopped and broke out in a round of applause. And I thought that was just very cool, especially in a place like New York, which gets beaten up very often for not being involved and patriotic. The whole plane stopped, and 3 days before Veterans Day, gave everyone a round of applause. So I thought that was really cool.
Hell yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I was in North Carolina for an event, and they did the same thing. They landed, and when we landed, they had some guys going to boot camp. So they mentioned that, and then all the vets on the plane, and the whole plane broke out in like a thunderous applause. I was like kind of taken aback, right? Because you don't know. But it's just a reminder that, there are more patriots than there are otherwise. And we've just been misled to believe it's the opposite is true. This election kind of reflected that.
That's the whole game, really, when you think about it. It is producing the illusion of consensus that allows the enemy to maintain its control, and which is why I have proposed more than once making it a crime punishable by imprisonment to use AI to produce large armies of bots who pretend to be human beings. In fact, in the Dune Chronicles, during their Butlerian jihad, they have to put down AI as their most existential enemy. And afterwards, in their orange Catholic Bible, they have a new commandment: thou shalt not fashion a machine in the shape of the mind of a man. There is something truly sinister about using technology to deceive the human eye into thinking he is surrounded by people who disagree with him when those people do not exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking brilliant.
Yep.
It's true, and I think the point that AO and Patrick are making, it's something I've been screaming about for a long time now, and I will continue to. That I think we're now at a point where we got to get more people to respectfully grab their own balls and stand up and start talking like it, because you've seen it. You've seen it. Like, I know I keep banging this example, but it is a good one. You saw what happened at Madison Square Garden. You've seen what happened after this election. Yeah, okay, we're seeing some fabricated protests and such, but we need to start accepting the fact that all this crap, this illusion that we've been put through, especially in recent years, this illusion that we are surrounded, even here in a place like where I am in New York, that we are surrounded by people that hate the country and hate Donald Trump, and we have to be afraid to talk about it, and we have to be afraid to wear our MAGA hats. Stop it. It's just not true. I fully believe we are down very close to that 4 to 6%. And I quite honestly think we've been closer to that number for a longer period than we've been led to believe. And so now is the time to you won the election. Everything is pointed in the right direction. Start acting like it. Start acting like it. Stop getting intimidated by the one guy on the couch in your house that still hasn't gotten the memo, or the one clown in your office that's still screaming about it. Stop letting that influence your mind. That's not reality, in my humble opinion.
Big thing that a lot of my normies noticed, normie Trump supporters noticed, was there aren't any Trump signs out in our neighborhood. Where are the Trump signs? The only signs I see are Kamala signs. Yeah, well, they just don't want to get vandalized by psychos. Trump supporters have become a quiet supermajority. No. I don't know if it's 94 to 96%. I think that's overly optimistic, but I'm still just speculating. I don't know. We have no way of knowing these things. You can't poll people anymore. Why? How are you going to get a sample? How are you going to get a sample? So I talked to my friend Mark Mitchell at Rasmussen Reports. He's their head pollster. And I got to spend hours with him at CPAC. And this is a good man. So you don't have to be a paid propagandist agent of the left to be a pollster. You can be a good man who genuinely wants to find out the opinion of the people. But what's he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do to get an accurate result? First of all, there's no way to decide whether or not your result turns out to be accurate because the voting numbers are completely untrustworthy. There's no way to generate a sample because all of our census data is fake. You have no idea what the actual racial breakdown in this country is. And then finally, how do you actually get people to answer your poll questions? Do you call them on their landlines? Because that's not a thing anymore. Remember back in the day, I was 15 years old and the phone would ring and there'd be just one phone for the whole family. You'd rush up to it and you'd pick it up with, a feeling of hopefulness. Hello? That doesn't happen. And then caller ID came along for my landline and now it says, bill collector. So I know not to pick it up. And then fast forward another 30 years. And my own mother doesn't have a landline anymore. But if you actually drill deep into the methods that these pollsters use, even good people will tell you, well, I've got a data bank of about 4 million landline people who will talk to me reliably. Mm-hmm. I think that's a confounding variable. Why don't these polls say landline holders currently feel that 49% of them are going to vote for Kamala and 49% are going to vote for Trump, and the other 2% are seriously considering getting rid of their fucking landline?
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that too is I've been watching polls for years now, and since 2020, something really amazing happened. And that in their methodology, they used to list off, how many registered voters, how many likely voters, and then the breakdown politically, right, left, independent, et cetera. They don't do that anymore. They just mention the number of people polled, and they reference some, statistic somewhere else, but it's obfuscated that they don't tell us. So, to me, how you do an easy push poll then is if you know who these people are, you can reliably call. And, Rasmussen being obviously one of the better ones, but all they have to do is simply oversample, right? The size, the number of people they call, they know are going to answer. But, to your point earlier is, have you guys ever been polled? I've never been polled. I don't think I know anyone that's polled.
Never, no. Not once.
No, nope. I've been monitored by the FBI, but I've never been polled. There's also a societal and intellectual breakdown facet to what you're talking about. So I completely agree with what you guys are talking about polls, but do you guys remember when you used to have to call a number that you had to remember or write down, and you called that number and you would have to say, "Hi, Mr. or Mrs. Smith," right? Can I please speak to your daughter? And there was an accountability that came with that, right? You had to have manners. You had to be respectful. You had to be able to present yourself. And when we consider the idea that Marx talked about, the greatest threat to communism is the destruction of the nuclear family. This is legitimately a part of it, because I can't tell you Kim's phone number. I don't know it. I don't know it because it's in my phone as Kim.
I'll give it to you after the show.
Oh, I love it.
That's what this should be. This is a man cave hangout. I am okay with that. No, but you see what I'm saying? Like, I used to take the phone on a cord and go into my bedroom holding the little button and climb under the covers and talk to my girlfriend and hope my mom didn't pick up. And then once the cord got detached, you used to push the button to try to find it in the house. Beep, 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 beep. And it turns out I'd be under the covers talking to my girlfriend, right? Or somebody would pick up and you'd be like, I'm on the phone. You'd scream it through the house. There's something that's missing now in the positive constructive of a nuclear family that is lost with technology. And I don't believe it comes back. You guys might hate me for this. But I don't believe it comes back without the awareness that we are being monitored.
Yeah. I believe we are.
Aren't we all aware that we're being monitored?
My kids aren't.
I just assume we're being monitored.
My kids aren't. None of these kids are. They're out here showing their junk and they're saying all types of crazy shit and they're sharing stuff with each other. And it makes exactly zero sense because they aren't aware that they're being watched.
I didn't know that they were showing their junk. Does that mean what I think it means?
Patrick, I'm going to tell you a real story. Hold that thought. I ended up at the police station about 8 months ago because one of the other children in this house, it's not my biological, but is starting to call me dad, got involved with a situation. It wasn't her directly, but another child in the school had sent a nude photo. Now, this is child pornography.
Are these prepubescent?
Correct. This is 12 years old I'm talking about.
Okay.
So a 12-year-old sends a naked photo to a boy. Said boy gives it to all of his friends. All of his friends now send it to all of their friends. Now you have a viral, illegal picture of a 12-year-old girl that reaches all the way to administration, which then they are, what's it called? They have to report, mandatory reporting. So they then have to report to the authorities. And so it goes all the way to the police station. And now every kid with child porn on their phone is now at least a witness, right? So now all of the parents are going to the police station. And we find out that one of the very left-leaning teachers decides that it's a good idea to tell one of the kids to send them the picture. And then that administrator decides to call in the principal to show them the picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
All illegal.
It's out of control.
Plus, think about that people have their phones backed up to cloud accounts, and like parents monitor what their kids are sending. So effectively, you can automatically have saved CP on your cloud account without even knowing. I mean, it's really dangerous stuff.
You know, Rambo, real quick, I just want to put this out there because you have a lot of people watching. People are always looking for things to do. I remember you and Kim told me this story. We were having lunch at Reawaken, and my face looked a lot like Patrick's did when you told me that. I was just shocked. You know, everyone's always asking what they can do. I don't know if it's out there, but I haven't seen it out there in a good way. You know what? Somebody needs to be the next libs of TikTok, but for teachers. Somebody needs to create some kind of account, which is the go-to, where when crap like that happens, those teachers are put on blast in a big way in front of millions of people. Because I'll tell you right now, and I've heard we've all heard a lot of other stories like that and even worse. And I'll tell you right now, if there was accountability within a media environment for these teachers, they'd get in line right quick. So somebody out there, pass it around. Somebody who's internet savvy, who wants to put an account together, start putting together an X account or something that focuses on stories of putting some of these administrators and these teachers on blast when they do things like asking a kid to give them the naked picture that somebody took. That shit's got to stop.
you got to think about, where will people who want to commit crimes against children flock? Well, they're going to go to where the kids are. So it doesn't mean that teachers are bad. It means that the natural course of action for somebody with that kind of predilection is going to be, I want to teach at a school. So it's good. There's no getting around the fact that pedophiles will be overly represented among the school teacher population, public and private. You're going to have more of them there. Furthermore, who are the only people who are legally allowed to watch or possess child pornography? It would be the people investigating those crimes. So you would expect those jobs to overly represent people who wish to be in possession of child pornography. And it doesn't mean that cops are bad or teachers are bad. It means that you're going to expect the criminals to go to where the crimes are most easily committed.
Can I present an idea to you guys for your feedback? Because Patrick, you just made me think of something. Now, Kim Rambo is a teacher. Kim didn't go get her degree to teach until she was 42. Kim was a mother of 4 before she decided to go do so. She did work in, child care and that such up leading to. But her husband at the time made very good money. They were okay. Whole nother story. I won't get into it. But Kim got divorced from a very toxic man. And she decided she wanted to teach children. Now, Kim already had a conservative ideals at that point, and I don't think that's necessarily the point. What I'm getting at is most people are going into their extended college stay, their extended education at a very early age as far as puberty goes. We're talking about 20-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids, and they're entering an indoctrination camp that is teaching them to continue to indoctrinate little children. And so Kim now goes back and starts teaching second grade. God, I hope that her colleagues are not watching this. As a conservative, right? There's only 2 women in all of her school in Baltimore that have even close to the similar ideals that I do. All of the rest of them are weeping that Donald Trump won.
You know what's crazy about that? You know what's crazy about that is the fact that you have to even say, I hope none of them are listening, right? There's something sick and wrong about the fact that that's even the case, right? It's indicative of kind of the programming that's gone in. And I mentioned this before, but it's almost like when you're a Trump supporter or conservative and you're talking to somebody maybe you don't know, and you get the feeling that you're probably on the same team, but it's almost like you have to have a little back and forth before you realize that you can effectively come out of the closet and you can kind of laugh with them. And that's been imposed on us, right? And that's, obviously part of providing the illusion to society that we're the minority voice, right? Just shouldn't have to worry about having her opinions, or that somebody at her school might happen to hear that, right?
You're absolutely right. Go ahead. Go.
No, I was just going to say, and going back to the beginning of the conversation about statistics, statistically, that shouldn't be the case. Statistically, when you have a school, and we know this is the case in most schools, where you're talking about how many dozens of teachers and only 2 of them are conservatives, right? What does that tell you? That proves that there is another force at play here. That literally proves the indoctrination, because otherwise, in a country, we just got told there was an election that went roughly 50-50, 52-48. That's a whole nother conversation. But you shouldn't, then if that's the case, if that's the distribution of numbers, then schools shouldn't be 96-4. That shouldn't be the case.
Right. Anything that uses public funding should be, and I don't mean this from like you have to have racial quotas, or in this case, ideological quotas. But when it's like, 98% in some places, one way, or, even the Fed, I was reading earlier that the Fed just gave overwhelmingly to Dems. Like everything's been set up to slant in that direction, in all these important roles, from who presides over us to who is involved with teaching our kids. I mean, it's not a mistake that our schools reliably churn out young, Che Marxists.
Did you just say that the Fed gave to candidates?
Yeah, Federal Reserve employees gave like $550,000 to Trump to Kamala's campaign, and the $50,000 to Trump.
That's remarkable that number is even public. You would think that they would be all shrouded in secrecy and stuff. I wonder how many employees the Federal Reserve have, because it's, it sounds like you're talking about $600,000, which is just a tiny amount. So I guess the Federal Reserve is not really all that big of an organization in the first place.
No.
Can I give opinion I think Dave might agree with on this? That sounds to me like fifth generation warfare. Not that it's not true.
Yeah.
The idea that it's public sounds like messaging that's being given to us to strike fear and motivate us to do something.
To get rid of the Fed.
Yeah. And I would agree. You know what? I thought of the second AO said that. Do you remember we got that story about a month ago that all the IRS unions or whatever it was endorsed Biden or Harris, whoever it was at the time?
It's a little on the nose,
Yeah.
When I saw that, my very first reaction was, well, isn't that just a little on the nose? Kind of like Jeb Bush endorsing Susie Wiles as Trump's chief of staff. Like, wait a minute. Okay, Jeb, first of all, you still exist. And second of all, obviously, that your opinion is a negative indicator. You're the Jim Cramer of political endorsements. They know this. They know they're hated. The cat's out of the bag. And the same is so with IRS. The IRS officially endorses, ta-da! Who loves the IRS? Who loves the person who says, the IRS really aren't the bad guys? Wait, you say the IRS aren't the bad guys? Let's frickin' stone you. Everybody hates the IRS on the left and the right. They're our captors. So when they come out and say we endorse this candidate, it's a reverse indicator. And the same would be so with Federal Reserve donations as well. That's a very interesting number. I'd like to look more deeply into that.
Yeah, it's on Breitbart if you want to look that up. And then, but how about the Cheneys, right? All of a sudden you have Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala. It's the same kind of thing, right? Like these legitimate demons, warmongering neocon demons, and they're all out propping them up. So there was someone else. It was the IRS, the Cheneys, but that makes you wonder, right? Who does that actually help? And what's the motivation behind it?
Yeah, what did you think about Dick Cheney thanking Donald Trump for pardoning Scooter Libby? Didn't that seem like a humanizing moment in general for Trump and Cheney and all that? Is there any chance that there's more nuance to some of this stuff, and that a lot of our political, the people on our screen, the George Bushes, the Dick Cheneys, even the Liz Cheneys, are just puppets utterly controlled by people whose names we don't know and may never know? Yeah,
I agree. And even then, some of those might actually be working on behalf of our guys, right? So, this gets back into what we don't know. And it's indicative of this current conversation about Trump and his current picks, where I have people coming in saying, well, he had bad picks in the past. And I'm like, did he? Like, do we know that for sure? Right? Do you know this for a fact? You have your opinions, but I'm going to assume the president of the United States knows a lot more than we do. Mm-hmm. Especially at this time in history.
That it's, you want to get me triggered. I know, Rambo, you were talking about this with Abs and Stormy on Thursday. I think that's one of the times I was screaming at the phone because I was agreeing with you. The same. It's interesting to me how some of the same people that will walk around and repeat a talking point like we have it all, we caught them all, things like that. Then to AO's point, we'll turn around and try to question what, even right now, there's people questioning things now. And I said, how do you make it make sense? How do people think that they have more information sitting on their couch than Donald Trump? And I take it a little bit of a step further. I personally don't believe, when you go back to 2016, if you think about the amount of time, effort, and detail that was put into this operation, whatever we all might agree or slightly disagree on what it is, and the details, I don't think anything that happened in 2016 or 2017 in that administration, that revolving door, I don't think any of that was by accident. I would say a fraction, if any, of those people that were presented presented as having pulled the wool over Trump's eyes actually did. I think it was all about placeholders, exposure. And I said this to somebody the other day. They were making that point. And I said, well, wait a second. I said, can you name off 3 or 4 people that you hate now? And, they went through the Boltons and all these other people. I said, well, would you have known that if they didn't come through that revolving door? And they stopped and they said, no, you're right. I wouldn't have. So I don't believe for a minute, save for maybe a handful, that there's been this giant deception. I don't see how that's possible, believing what we believe about this operation.
Right. Well, and we also know that Sun Tzu, one of the big things is leveraging spies, and details a number of different types of spies. And one of them is actually having people that don't know that they're spies, right? And you bring them in and you feed them misinformation and disinformation, right? So that's, to me, absolutely has to be in play. And so we have to think about that when we're coming to determinations. And this involves all the players across the entire scope of this, right? We don't know. And we're going to find out, right? And I'm comfortable with that.
This is why I love the show, because I didn't plan any of this and we're 36 minutes into the show. This is legitimately, I love having conversations with people like you, but this I think lends credence to exactly what you guys are saying. I think that a lot of what we're watching, not a lot, I think 99% of what we're watching is kayfabe. And I want to have that debate with you guys, because it seems to be a hot button talking point across the podcasting, format at this point. I want to find out what you guys, just so we can get kind of an idea of where we all stand before we go into the Carrie Lake stuff. I want to find out where you guys stand on control. So let's watch this clip quick, because I think it lends to what I believe anyway. It's an older clip. Listen to Trump.
We got crazy people like Shifty Schiff and Hillary and all of these people. These people, they don't want to talk about greatness for our country. All they want to do is investigate everybody, but they are the ones that are really under investigation. I also want to thank...
You notice how he skims by that really quickly? He's in way more control of what he says than I think most people believe.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that makes me think, okay, Pompeo's leaving. Sure. I didn't see anywhere where Trump was like, Pompeo's a bad guy. He has to go. I'm not keeping him in my administration. No, what I heard was Pompeo's finished with the operation. He's now going to go retire at the beach somewhere. That's what I heard.
Well, even like Ray, we've heard that Ray, Ray's still, in my opinion, to be determined. And I'd lean toward him still working with the White Hats. So when I hear that he's retiring, everyone's, there are a number of people that are like, see, he's bad. I'm like, well, if he retires, he can testify, right? I mean, we have to think larger, in my opinion.
Yep. The thing that I struggle with on Ray is you were told how many times in the drops that Ray is asleep. You were literally told he's a sleeper. You were literally told trust Ray. And I get the flip side. People say misinformation is necessary. Dual meanings exist. And but again, to AO's point, like, I don't even think it's so much about, and this goes back to what you guys were talking about on Thursday. At the end of the day, it's not about like good guy or bad guy. It's about who is controlling him. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether he's a good or bad, because I think that even that is getting down into the weeds of things that don't really exist, because I think most people aren't gray or aren't black or white. They're gray hats. But you have to say to yourself, well, wait a second. Most people in our movement acknowledge that that's not Joe Biden. They furthermore acknowledge that if you pick a bumbling idiot like that we're controlling them in some, if not all regards. And on down the line, but then you want to tell me that you think Ray is still left out there to hang in the wind and kick down doors and do all the things that we're told he was doing? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Well, you have control. You're telling me you have control of the White House and some of Congress and all these other things through devolution and continuity of government, but Chris Ray is still out there running rampant? Make that make sense to me under the lens of the way we look at things. Yeah.
Remember who got removed. the person removed was the boogeyman himself, the 6'10" freak show dude who supposedly started the Russia hoax in one way or another against Donald Trump, Comey. And just remember, Trump kept Comey around for months after his inauguration. Why? He had to have known what Comey supposedly did. So why did he keep him around? And then he hires Ray in his place. Ray, who by all accounts is a member of the swamp in one way or another. He comes from that horrible law firm. What do you call it? King and Spalding, which is like Swamp Central, Scumbag Central. And all he ever does when he goes in front of Congress is madden the world with his non-answers to very easy questions. And yet he gets kept around. And if Q says trust Ray under those circumstances, I say trust Ray. I think one of the things that is going to be revealed is the control mechanism that the president of the United States can't even extricate when he goes into office. He is, for one reason or another, unable to tell us why he can't just hire a bunch of patriots. Because he can't. I don't know why he can't, but he can't. And I'm not going to accept the notion that a lot of people in, say, the super duper truthy community say, yeah, well, Trump is controlled by the deep state too. Maybe, but it sure doesn't look like that to me.
Mm-hmm. And if not him, who else, right? Like, who else is fighting for us at this level that can make a difference?
Dude. You remember
the answer is obviously nobody. So what's the alternative, right?
Damn straight. Ao, just to kind of go back to what you said about Sun Tzu, the taxonomy of spies outlined in The Art of War, there are 5 types of spies. So you got your local spies that are recruited from the local population. They provide information about the enemy's terrain, resources, and activities. You have inward spies. They are enemy officials or insiders who are persuaded to share sensitive information about their side's plans and movements. Converted spies, captured enemy spies who are turned to work for you, feeding disinformation to their original side while providing valuable intelligence to yours. Doomed spies, agents sent with false information, knowing they're likely to be captured to mislead the enemy and manipulate their actions. And finally, surviving spies, spies who successfully gather intelligence and return with critical insights about the enemy's strategies, troop movements, or vulnerabilities. Taxonomizing these spies is hugely effective. And I think we've got a whole bunch of each one of these spies. A local spy, what would that be? That could just be a dude working the front desk in some important administrative building in Washington, D.C. And all of those spy categories are going to exist among people we regard as the enemy. And if you see some big anomaly like James Comey being held over inexplicably, I think he's a great category for a converted spy.
Right. Remember even his speech against Hillary when he outlined all of the charges against her and then didn't charge her? I mean, that very well could have been, I think it probably was part of the whole setup, right? To show, to get us here. I just assume that the guys that are doing this, that have been doing this for decades, right? And to get us to this point, know what they're doing. Like Trump's elected. If we weren't charged, Trump would have been dead by now, probably, right. Unfortunately. But also, he wouldn't have won. Everything's on the line. Their lives are on the line, and Trump still won.
I'm just thinking of just a drop here. I mean, how many times did Q tell us? 3 or 4 times in the drops, it told us there are more good than bad. The drop 937, it says, you cannot possibly imagine the size of this. Trust the plan. Trust that there are more good than bad. There's also that other drop that's coming up on an 1118 Delta. I'm sure we'll get into this, involving Runbeck and all the crap going on in Maricopa. And in that drop, it highlights Patriots in trusted positions. So, these are the things you start to add all this up on top of what Patrick and AO were saying, and you can start to paint the picture for what would logically make sense is really happening.
Freaking brilliant. And it leads right into the ultimate question, which I wanted to start the show with an hour ago. Where do you guys all stand? Patrick, we'll start with you and we'll go right around. Okay, the drops tell us Patriots in full control. It's debatable. Obviously, every show's debating it. So before we get into Carrie Lake 53-47 and some other things, just to have a basis so everybody understands what we each believe, how do you stand on Patriots in control?
I stand on the side of pretty much they've been running things since before Trump won in 2016. I think the plan goes back further than that. I can't speak to the level of control before 2016, but if you look at Comey, I think he's a good indicator. If you look at Susan Rice, that weird email she sent on Inauguration Day 2017, I think you're looking at full control starting in the late 2016 timeframe, possibly earlier. And when I say full control, I mean possessing the ability to take players off of the game board at will and replace them with Jim Carrey in a mask.
Yeah. I love you.
Yeah.
I love Patrick, bro. Dave, can you follow that up?
Why do you gotta make me go after Patrick? Come on, man. Yes, and yes. I think all of that. I mean, I think without going into a whole nother rabbit hole, something that when you study the secret army of 60,000, I had a tweet yesterday. I didn't even think that was that unknown about Christina Bobb that went kind of viral. She's JAG, right? You start digging into some of these people and you look at the dates and the secret army of 60,000, which Newsweek openly admits started in 2011. Rambo, you've done a great job of highlighting a lot of the different moves that Obama did and did not make in the years leading up to what Patrick is talking about. And that perfectly lays out the runway for exactly what Patrick is saying. And I think to connect it to right now, without going too far into what I know you want to talk about with the 53-47 is, look, we know for a fact, you really just simple logical inference that the Patriots did something in 2016 to prevent enough rigging to allow Donald Trump to organically win.
Right.
Then Donald Trump came along and told you that 2020 was going to be stolen. Now, and Stormy, I'm going to take this right out of Stormy's mouth because he said it on your show the other day. He's 100% right. You cannot tell me that it makes any sense that in 2020, when Donald Trump and the military had more control, more power, more access to information, that they couldn't stop the steal if they wanted to. So why? Well, because you have to let people commit the crimes. You can't just how do you inject evidence legally? You have to let them commit the crimes. Then he came along and told you it wasn't going to happen in 2024. And sure enough, it didn't. But what I think, to tack on to what Patrick is saying, that emulates the fact that we are in full control. Rambo's going to get into the proofs of it, but I think what you're looking at now is a situation where they allowed a certain amount. What are the chances that every state that Kamala won are the states without voter ID, and all these different patterns, which we'll get into. And I think you're in a situation now where it's almost like a mirror of 2016, where they once again allowed just a certain level of cheating in certain places to highlight what we need to get into and what we need to know to move forward with all this.
What would have happened if we would have exposed it then? If the Senate was always the target, it had to play out this long.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ayo. Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Well, we know Sun Tzu plays a part in this, and thank you, Patrick, for reading those. Sun Tzu referred to that as the divine manipulation of the threads, using all the spies, and that feeds into one core principle that he pushed was victorious warriors win first, and then go to war, right? And I believe that's exactly what we're seeing, and that talks about control, right? So the war and we're seeing is kind of what we would call the movie, right? But that if we believe that he's channeling that, or the white hats are channeling that, is they already had this dialed in before they go to war, and that's the public side of it, where the public sees some of these, even though it's like peeking through, behind the curtain, because not everything is public yet. But just looking at what Sun Tzu tells us and knowing they use it, I think it really clarifies kind of what we're seeing, because it fits together, if that makes sense.
For sure. let me take, we're about halfway through. I want to take a minute. Patrick, are you prepared to do David Becker's read or no?
I'm always prepared to read anything, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, give me a minute. I'll put it in
my email.
chat.
I'll get it to you right then.
I'm going to do yours first, and I will.
You mean tulip blooms?
Well, I was talking about Patrick's. I was talking about David's. I have your Tulip Blooms video. I can play that while I look for David Becker's stuff. But I would love to take advantage of your voice, because I think that you are the voice of the movement when it comes to supporting other patriots. When it comes to advertising and sponsorship. So let me say thank you quick. Let's do Tulip Blooms first.
At Tulip Blooms, we believe in more than just skincare. We believe in freedom. We believe in natural products made by Americans, for Americans, using nature's finest ingredients to help you feel your best. Each Tulip Blooms product is carefully crafted with pure organic ingredients. No chemicals, no compromises, just clean, natural skincare you can trust. We know what matters to you: freedom, family, and a healthy way of life. That's why every purchase at tulipblooms.shop supports American jobs and a brand that values your freedom. Join the movement. Support a company that believes what you believe in. Visit tulipblooms.shop today. Tulip Blooms, natural skincare for patriots. Promo code Rambo for 10% off.
Hey, and now, guys, just want to let you know, Rainfall, which is the best lotion in the world, consisting of unrefined, food-grade plant oils and aloe. Guys, one of the things that you have with a natural product is you're going to end up getting the unrefined product, which means you're going to get kind of a smell that comes from that plant. Aloe, for example, or hemp seed. There are very natural smells that come from this, which is why we are using lavender essential oil, rose geranium essential oil, sandalwood essential oil, and finally, brilliant almond fragrance for 4 amazing scented rainfalls for those people who are more used to a more neutral smell in their lotions. We can't make this product completely natural without having the natural smells from those oils, but with the lavender essential oil, my God. It's freaking amazing, guys. Go to tulipblooms.shop, tulipblooms.shop. Use promo code Rambo for 10% off. And don't forget, when you use promo code Rambo, 25% of that sale gets dropped directly into an account that pays to make it so Joe, eventually, if you buy enough of this stuff, will be able to do this full time. So go to tulipblooms.shop, use promo code Rambo.
I freaking love you, bro. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that today. I can't figure out how to send you the read, so I'm just going to do it anyway. And I'd love to, because
I've got a freaking it's just pgunnels@gmail.com. Just pop it into put it in the private chat. Just copy and paste it.
I tried to. I'm not doing it right.
Oh, okay. Because I do the read all the time for you want to do? I could just do the Badlands read. Is it the same read?
It's the Badlands. It's just /Rambo. It's the same read. Are you paying too much?
Are you paying too much? I don't have it right here in front of me. So you do it. I'll talk about.
I'll
David.
do it. Yeah, I would love to just get your personal opinion on the dude, because I think he's awesome, but you have personal experience from meeting him. So here it is. David Becker is absolutely a patriot through and through, Badlander, self-proclaimed Badlander, and he has absolutely 100% jumped on board with with supporting, honestly, everybody in this movement, especially Rambo and Frens and David NewsTreason. So I cannot wait to meet him this weekend. I can't wait to shake his hand and have Dave shake his hand as well. So Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance. Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Fall is the time of year when the insurance companies send out their annual renewal rates and increases. For many, the high cost of medical insurance is about to get even worse. David Becker and his son Jesse of Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance are here to help you get the best possible PPO insurance coverage at affordable rates. If you think the cost of groceries has exploded, you should see what the hospitals are charging these days. Without the proper PPO protection, you could be liable for tens of thousands of dollars in the event of a surgery or hospital stay. Since 1990, Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance has helped individuals and small businesses get access to nationwide PPOs with coverage both in-network and out-of-network charges in every state. Having a great nationwide network like Cigna will help you keep your costs down to a minimum. If you are stuck paying for your own medical insurance, call David for a free quote at 609-577-8557 or visit www.midatlanticba.com/Rambo. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like you
something
when I grow
interesting
up,
about all
Becker.
this is I kind of think about, we're capitalists. I just want to say real quick that, just like the idea that we are the news now and that a lot of independent citizen journalists are taking over. And that's good because it's an alternative to the fake news media conglomerate. And engaging in capitalism with other patriots is cutting out the same people who own the big corporations. So when we can actually do business with one another voluntarily and reduce money that we're spending, giving to the people that hate us, right? That's a good thing. And, I guess it just bothers me. And there's obviously the point of grifting, et cetera, that's used universally. But, I think that's it's a poor man's way of viewing it. And it's also indicative of listening to people that are trying to convince you that, what we do and what we embrace as patriots and capitalists is like the wrong thing. And it doesn't make any sense because it's BS.
What's the alternative? Continue to fund BlackRock and Vanguard?
Right.
Why aren't we supporting each other? I hate that argument. I hate the grifter, patriot bullshit. I hate it. I can't stand it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the guys that are business minded in this movement should be supported. Donald Trump is a businessman. The people in this movement that are businessmen should be supported because they're out here supporting patriot causes, not BlackRock and Vanguard.
Right.
100%.
Mike Lindell, for example.
I'm gonna address that for a minute because it triggers the hell out of me too. The patriot grifter shit is a psyop. Period. It's a psyop made to divide people. And before anybody says it, not in this chat because you got good people here, but that crap that gets thrown around. Well, Q said not to make money. No. Q spoke about essentially that there were people profiting off the movement, meaning there were people trying to tell other people that they had special intel, pay for it, put it behind paywalls, things like that. Q did not say that Joe Rambo should quit his job, go into debt, and live in a trailer because he wants to be a podcaster. That's not what Q said. And so I agree on all fronts. And to AO's point, in case people did just crawl out from underneath a rock, the affiliate network type of marketing situation, which has been something that has been exploding in the economy long before it started, long before Q even came around. It is prevalent on YouTube in a big way. That is where the economy is going. The economy is going towards a merit-based product where you're watching people. Like you go on YouTube, you watch somebody cook, you look at the products they use, you can buy those products. It benefits the channel. You're cutting out the BS middlemen, the Targets, the Walmarts, the distributors of the world that hate us, and you're redistributing that money to help support people that are actually doing the right thing. So I'm sorry I had to get on my soapbox for a minute, but that's to back you guys up. I've gotten really tired of that whole argument.
Grifting is a synonym for making a living, and everybody here has to make a living, and the people in the chat all know that. So we're not talking about you guys, but also we can't win this war until the economic power of our side is greater than the economic power of the enemy. And the enemy enslaved us in the first place with the power of economic magic known as the Federal Reserve. They took over everything. And now the Fortune 500, also known as the thing that employs the vast majority of us in one way or another, is controlled by that enemy. It's a very tiny group of people. Until we break that control, AKA have actual control over the means of production, then we will not have won this war. That's one of the reasons why I think that Donald Trump's crypto plays are more important than he's being given credit for. Because until Donald Trump becomes a trillionaire, he can't actually smash these enemies the way that they need to be smashed. But another way that we can win this war is to build the parallel economy. And we all know that. So get your products as much as possible from fellow patriots. In-group preference is one of the greatest weapons you can wield in this war. So get your insurance from David Becker, because David Becker's insurance is amazing. My wife got crazy sick and had to be hospitalized. And they treated us like royalty because we had full coverage from the Mid-Atlantic the Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance. We got the best treatment. We got the best hotel. We got the best hospital room. They loved having us. And you can tell when your insurance is shit or you don't have insurance. They kind of want to just get you the hell out of there. They did not want that with us. It was good. Get your insurance from there. And for God's sake, go to tulipblooms.shop and get the best skincare you could ever get. It's addictive. Now that there's lavender in it, I can't wait to put this on my skin.
I freaking love him. All right. And the only other thing that I ever ask from this show, and you guys are already killing it. There's almost 2,500 people here just on Rumble in the middle of the day. I have been having a really good time being up there with Dave from NewsTreason and all of the Badlands shows on the leaderboard. You guys have put us up there for going. It's been over 2 months. Every show has hit the leaderboard. That is because you guys are so active and because you guys hit that thumb. So if you could do it again, I appreciate it on all platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Rumble. Where the heck else are we? I think that's it. YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. Oh, Foxhole. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to forget you guys over on
not Twitter, X.
Yeah, X. Yeah, whatever.
Man, the people in X who are watching do a fairly decent job of engaging with the chat, because for some reason or another, the X interface is designed to make it easy to watch live, but tricky to figure out where the chat window is. But I see a whole bunch of y'all in there, so I love that. Hit the heart button and retweet on X, guys, aka Twitter.
So I want to ask you guys what you think of. Let me say this. I'll preempt it with this. I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's vote was supposed to go into Wednesday, if not Thursday, and it was called overnight. Everything in the country seemed to have been cleared as far as the vote counting was concerned, except we're left with Arizona, which is the one I want to spotlight. Maricopa County is the only county to ever be mentioned in the drops. And now we see 53 to 47. I've made multiple posts about it. Many people have. That seems to be exactly where we're going to land. Carrie Lake, who is the epitome of central casting as far as I'm concerned. She's beautiful. She's well-spoken. She's an ex-TV anchor. We watched her election be stolen in 22 with Katie Hobbs. Katie Hobbs then ended up in a medical boot, right? We can run this gamut of information that we've been given on this exact place in the country, and it's basically the last one we're all watching. So I want to know what you guys think is going on in Arizona. Is this the first domino to fall when it comes to exposing 2020, or is this just another BS stolen election? Patrick, you want to go first?
Well, until we actually have elections that we can check on, all votes are phantom votes. There are no real votes because there are no real elections. There's no actual counting going on. There's just this performative display that they call counting. Now, if you believe patriots are in control, you know that it's all part of a play that gets us to elections that are real. Donald Trump said it during his interview with, I think it was Joe Rogan. He said, I owe the American people fair elections. We didn't get a fair election in 2016. It just happened to be the result we wanted. We didn't get a fair election in 2018. It happened to be a bunch of fake crap that didn't wake us up. Then 2020 was stolen right in front of us, but it still didn't wake up the masses. 2022, stolen again right in front of us, might have gotten the masses a good deal of the way there. And then 2024 was amazing because, yeah, we're seeing behavior that is absolutely indistinguishable from massive cheating. But at least in the swing states, especially Arizona and Pennsylvania, one thing that gives me solace is the fact that they can't just punch in the vote totals they desire at a computer terminal and have them pop out on the other end with the Associated Press. Apparently, they have to engage in some kind of prestidigitation to get the results that they want, or they wouldn't continue counting constantly. And it is also possible, at least from what we're able to observe, that they can fail and then they can give up, as is in the case of apparently the victory of this McCormick character over this Bob Casey fixture who keeps getting elected as a so-called conservative Democrat over and over again. And then you have Arizona. What are they doing? Well, you've got Donald Trump getting totals that are higher than Ruben Gallego, but they need Gallego to have more votes than Kari Lake, but they can't have him have more votes than Donald Trump, and that wouldn't even pass the fucking laugh test. So it's a neat little bit of acrobatics and contortionism that they're having to go through watching it happen. I think we might need to wait for Donald Trump to take office before the actual hammer comes down. But I have said to myself, okay, I'm going to just imagine myself in the eyes of a non-Trump supporter, just somebody who wants fair elections. Did Trump get us a fair election in 2024? No. But can we hope that Donald Trump will then drop what he's doing to get us fair elections for, I don't know, 2026? I guess we'll see. But we already know that all 50 states are messed up in one way or another. You have good old Kentucky, for God's sake, having all the Republicans win down ballot and having the governor get stolen by that creepy Democrat dude. It's state after state that does this. We are a captured union. Texas, guys, in 2022, in the primary, that creep, Greg Abbott, got primaried by like 43,000 people. And he still got 2/3 of the vote in a monotonic way from precinct to precinct, 66%, 66%, 66%. Give me a break. Texas is every bit as crooked. It's just red crooked. So I really think we need just a massive overhaul that hopefully we are at the level we are at the level of awareness as a people that we will tolerate the overhaul that needs to take place.
Right around the horn. Either one of you guys.
Go ahead, Dave.
Why do I always got to follow Patrick? He's so good at this. What I would add is, I guess the way I'm looking at it right now is when things don't make sense in the moment, then there's another piece we're not seeing yet, right? And so they've spent especially the last 4 years, setting everything up to bring awareness to election fraud, to bring awareness to the machines, to the mail-in, to everything. Now you have, we know right now we're seeing everything that Patrick just talked about. But if you look at the masses as a whole, right, the average guy in the street, the guy that just wants to go to the Cowboys game this weekend, he doesn't know there was any fraud last week. He has no idea. So then what's the play, right? Did we just take a step backwards? Because to the public, you would say, well, wait a second. How are we going to get to those revisions that Patrick is talking about? But to that point, I think it's way too soon to tell. I know you're going to go into this, Rambo, but the stuff that we've seen, you have, what were the last two states to actually be called? Arizona with 11 electoral votes, and Nevada with 6. That adds up to 17, doesn't it? You had the other day they were talking about there was 944,000 votes left to be counted. What does that add up to? 17. You have Carrie Lake walking around in a yellow dress, as you said, Rambo. You have the biggest one, which I know you're going to get into, the fact that out of 3,100 whatever counties in the country, there's only one mention in the Q drops, Maricopa. So it's all coming down to that.
I don't know how.
Go ahead.
The audience knows the significance of a solid field of yellow on the dress, right?
Yeah, the yellow, the maritime signal flag is yellow, is Q. Exactly. Thank you, Patrick.
The letter Q.
Yeah.
I think, Dave,
so
you mentioned.
Yep.
You mentioned that the last two, and I think Arizona being last is actually a tell. First of all, yeah, the yellow dress, but also lake. So apparently, if we're watching water, right? I mean, that's not out of the question. But it was the last one, and I think that brings it top of mind. And what would make sense if you were going to kind of delve into this, you start smaller, and so Maricopa being mentioned. The Gallegos anomaly, which makes no sense on the down. You know, the Republicans win everything pretty much except that one seat. So I think it's a setup. Now, is that a setup by white hats ahead of time? Do we have to wait till Trump takes over before it starts? But I just think because it was last, it's likely to be first as the first domino to show that, because if they can show that that was stolen, then it's a domino effect for the rest of it, right?
And it actually, it's something I think that a lot of us maybe didn't think of going into it because we're also focused on the presidential race. But if you actually think about the way they've done this operation, where they've constantly used either alternative events or surrogates, like, for example, RFK Jr., right? He is the surrogate for all the health stuff that Trump wasn't allowed to say, because if Trump said it would be controversial. And you had Vivek Ramaswamy was kind of the Republican surrogate during the primaries to say all the things Trump wasn't allowed to say. So to Ao's point, I think by putting the focus on Lake and some of these other ones, North Carolina is another good example, Vermont, New Hampshire, there's a number of other states where the numbers just defy logic. You're now taking the focus and the controversy off of Trump and Harris and putting it elsewhere. And I want to just throw this out. I don't want to get off track, but Rambo, I'd love to hear your take on this and everybody. Patrick said something that I don't necessarily disagree with, that we may have to wait. This could change tomorrow, so nobody freak out. May have to wait until Trump is in office to see this play out. What if, I'm throwing an idea out. What if Trump is the one that stands up on January 21st and says, my election was fraudulent? We got to take a look. What if he throws himself under the bus? Not that he stole it, but so, that's just, I'm just throwing that out there. But the point is that, yeah, I agree. I think that it's pretty clear. I know Rambo's probably got 19 different videos and comms to prove it. That and if you guys haven't watched Rambo with Stormy and Abs last Thursday, check that one out as well, because I think there's a lot, and we've gotten a lot more since then, that points to what Patrick and Ao are saying, that it's clearly they want all the focus on this area in Maricopa, and I think no matter how you slice it, we're not done yet.
No, go ahead, Ao. Do you want to before I show some things? I want you to give your feedback on that.
Oh, well, I mean, just as I said, I just think that we have control. And if we have control, then you logically have to make, assumptions based on that, right? I mean, because we don't know. So I just don't think that all the things that we've listed off here about the last ones, obviously Maricopa, et cetera, is by chance, right? You can't have control and then have these kind of anomalies or things happen, and it's not part of what's going on. I just don't see white hats getting caught off guard on any of this, because at the end of the day, the ramifications for what's going on are so significant, because we're talking about the future of human civilization pretty much, even though it's starting here in the US. But because of that, then we have to assume that it's not kind of like just loosey-goosey trying to figure it out on the fly and, oh my, how do we respond to that? If it's a military operation, and I believe it is, then it's all been planned out ahead of time. It has to be. And once again, going back to the fact that everything is on the line. So, I mean, just a deduction of logic tells us kind of what's going on, I believe.
Look, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Blue Anon shaman on January 6th.
Oh my God.
We had one in Brazil. We had one on January 6th. I believe we may see a Blue Anon shaman on January 6th. So Biden should declare martial law and stop the transition until we understand whether the election for POTUS in 2024 was free and fair.
These people
This is growing evidence to believe that the election was neither free nor fair. Investigate, recount the vote. And I just keep pushing these dummies.
Do we have any evidence that this woman is real? That's the first thing.
Yeah, I'm all over this account, bro.
Seriously? So that's
Rambo.
a real human.
This is a real account. Sarah Cuckold Walker, or whatever her name is.
Okay, because that's quite the chin. So anyway.
I'll go to the account right now. You should see it. It's a whole. She's been posting for years.
She's not a Holly Bryden, you know, where it's like,
dude, the one post has 2.2 million views.
Yeah, imagine these are the same people that were telling us that election denialism is treason, that this is the stuff of domestic terrorists, right? The people that are saving democracy. And look what they're doing now, calling for these radical moves, right? In the last minute. It's pretty amazing. It's not surprising, but it is amazing.
I'm gonna pull her up.
What about the Elon play? Have you seen this stuff that these people are actually starting to claim now?
How have been counted 17 million of them belonging to Democrats, while 3 million of them to Republicans. So he adds this post where he says that there are 20 million less counted votes now compared to the 2020 election. In other words, claiming that the vast majority of these not counted votes, 17 million of them, would have been in favor of a Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris. Then another.
Who is this chick?
And then Rambo, just give me the other screen real quick if you could. You know, you have just these ops out there. They're talking about Russia, the bomb threats. But this one I've been seeing a lot of the Elon play that now there's these people that are putting this out there that Elon somehow did something to rig the election. So it's, you know, you're just seeing all of this come back around and I find it interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know, I believe what we're saying. Oh, go ahead, man.
Look at this one. My God, there's an account called Doggin Trump, who is literally saying, "Hey, how is it possible that Donald Trump won when all of the down ballot went for the good guys like you, Governor Shapiro?"
Yeah.
And these numbers don't add up. And you got to think Governor Shapiro's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah. Well, they can't. So it's funny watching the psychological break here, trying to make sense of this all. And I believe that the missing ballots are the shadow of the 2020 steal, right? It's kind of the inverse, right? But you see the leftists trying to make sense of it, thinking, well, what's going on? They were obviously stolen. But I encourage all of them to keep questioning that, because effectively they're red pilling themselves, or at least setting themselves up to be red pilled.
Bro, so I'm surfing this lady's. Sorry, hey, you guys see this. I'm surfing this lady, Sarah Cuckold Walker, and she she retweeted this dude. Reed Galen says, "I think we found a new leader of the free world."
Oh my God.
President Zelensky, thank you so much. Before you go, if you want to share, what keeps you going? Do you ever feel defeated?
I have a lot of power, but even feeling strong and have a lot of energy. It doesn't mean that we want to fight all our life because the price is high, like I said, because the war takes the best of us, the best heroes, the best men, women, children. That's it. But we are not ready to give our freedom to this terrorist Putin. That's it. That's why we are fighting. That's it.
So,
President Zelensky, thank you so much
we-
for your
Amazing. You know we're going to miss this guy, right?
I miss Biden already.
I miss our
we
boy
re-
Blue.
we really are-
so bad.
We really are living in a simulation.
Mhm.
Go back and
man.
look. Kristen Welker is a terrible actress. Go
Yes.
look at her again. The beginning of that video. It's like, really? I
She
don't
does
know.
not play a convincing woman.
I'm gonna invite Sarah Cuckold Walker onto the show. I think.
Good luck with that.
You can invite her.
Especially.
She look at her handle. It's MICHELL and then 47 numerals. Why do people pick names like handles like that? Funnily enough, Joe Lang picked a name like that, and he's not a bot. But I'm wondering why they pick names with 17 numbers at the end of them.
She's posting Jim Stewart's and. Ugh.
Mhm.
By the way, did Zelensky say these fucking terrorists? Or did he say these cock-sucking? I mean, I want to know what he actually said. They didn't need to bleep it out.
It's not.
He reminds me of Roman Maroney, if you remember from Johnny Dangerously. You fucking assholes. I'll have your bells in the slink.
It's not a conspiracy theory to believe Trump cheated in this election. It's common sense.
Man, what we need are the big names saying this shit. Anons on Twitter can say absolutely anything, and they do. I want to see, I don't know, Anderson Cooper calling it stolen. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, think about it. If they keep pushing this and this gets enough legs, they're going to expose themselves.
Yeah.
There's another thing that we ought to consider is that these elections are unauditable, that there is no way to get to the bottom. They are designed that way. It's turtles all the way down. And something else to look to be careful about. These freaking jagoffs could steal the election during an audit. So that's also something to be careful of. Now, by the way, I am saying all these things premised on the idea that patriots are not in full control. In the normie narrative, these are the things that we must consider. Because if we sit around saying, it's just a movie, let's see what happens next, well, the show would be really fucking short. But still, it is, just because you won the election fair and square, and an audit should show that. The people in charge of audits, man, you ever met Ken Bennett, Republican from Arizona? And he was supposedly one of the good guys before he tore the mask off to reveal his reptilian face.
I think you brought up a good point, Patrick, though. The fact that we have not seen any of the bigger names, right? You haven't seen Hillary out there, or you haven't seen Anderson Cooper, you haven't seen any of these idiots. And I don't want to get too far out of my skis here, Rambo, but that's what kind of leads me to believe that there's some other path or set of events that could be in store. Like, it's awfully, we keep saying it's awfully quiet. Why is it awfully quiet? Well, think about what Jamie Raskin was talking about. That wasn't put out there by accident, in my humble opinion. So I do find it interesting that although there is this growing rumble, pardon the pun, on X and online about fraud from their end, the fact that it hasn't come from any of the big names yet makes me wonder what the other playbook is here that is happening. Because I think one thing that, and again, I know we're kind of wavering between the movie narrative and the normie narrative, but I think when you look at the, I always try to gauge it by what I call the Alex Jones awakened people, right? The people that know things are really bad and there's problems, but they don't know about Q. They don't think there's a movie. Those people are all sitting there going, "Oh no, it's too quiet. No, they got something planned. No, there's something that's going to happen. They're not done. They're not going to roll over." And so that's what I have my eyes on there. I think I have a sneaking suspicion, without knowing, just speculating, that they want people to think that. The white hats want those people. You just had Flynn out the other day putting out some very dark stuff as well. I think they want people to be vigilant. They want people to not get complacent and to have this feeling, whether or not it's actually going to happen, that there's something else in the bingo cards between now and January.
Can we look? People are going to roll their eyes at me when I do this. Maybe not you, Dave, but people in the chat will roll their eyes. But can we back up for a damn second and just look at this with a 40,000-foot view? Donald Trump got elected into a system that was supposed to be able to cheat at any time they wanted. The drops told us that he was asked to run with certain assurances that he would win. Okay, he did. And then 2020 was messaged for months leading up to it that it would be stolen, so that we all looked, and we did, and it was. And now we're having this debacle. Now, go back again to the first 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency. We have what people coin as the capitulation tour. Donald Trump travels all over the planet, stopping at every country and major, the Vatican, the England. He crosses the line in North Korea. He goes and has dinner at the Forbidden City in China. He goes to Japan. That guy gets thrown out. I mean, he goes and has the sword dance. If anyone believes that all of that happened because Donald Trump is an egomaniac, racist psycho, I have no idea how to replug you into reality. Donald Trump was literally asked to run by military generals. We've now seen it. He admitted it with Kellogg. And so he then went and did this world tour, having it all already. So now we're supposed to watch this, and I'm supposed to believe in an information war, that the fake news, as Donald Trump has coined it, every time he's done a rally, look at all that fake news. I'm supposed to believe that he doesn't have control of that too. He does.
Rambo, did you see Trump's Veterans Day message?
Not yet.
Because you're Patrick. Go ahead. You
hold up.
up
Yeah,
first.
I didn't want to cut
Patrick. It's just a real quick comment. If people hadn't believed in large numbers, majority numbers, that Trump's tour was the result of his being an egomaniac, then Trump wouldn't have been able to accomplish what he accomplished. He did everything under the cover of being a crazy egomaniac. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And the spell is intense. It is not broken with the vast majority of the people. I mean, people who can figure out that Trump's a genius are still probably only 1 in 20, in my opinion.
I think that Trump's a genius, and he's backed by the most intelligent operation to ever take place, which I believe is God-given to us, humanity. I believe God's got his hands all over this whole thing. I believe that military intelligence, look, we were told about wizards and warlocks in the drops well before we were ever told Space Force existed. Space Force is legitimately controlling all of this. Pog has their hands all over it. Why would they ever drop the videos? Like, I don't mean to go on this crazy rant, but nobody seems to want to connect all of these things that we've seen. I can't unsee what I've seen and then look at these things. We can talk about this stuff all day long and debate control or not, but you can't debate control or not without looking at everything they've already shown us. They've dropped Easter eggs the size of the Titanic on us the whole time we've been watching. Green screens and sound stages and earlobes unattached. Sure, make fun of me, but it's a thing.
How do you
Trump walking by the window behind the White House?
Right.
Remember, when there's no parking area out there.
How do you unsee 25,000 troops from
Thank
all
you.
50 states taking over DC, and a guy standing on Martin Luther King Day on ABC saying a peaceful transition to military control?
How do you
unsee that?
How do you not read Fifth Generation Warfare and then look back at Barack Obama saying, if I could have a third term, I'd sit in my basement with an earpiece and I would tell the new president what to do? How do you read Fifth Generation Warfare and not look at that as intentional messaging? so that you all believed that Barack Obama was in charge of Joe Biden.
Right.
And I can tell you that was, you know what proves what, and I know you say that all the time, Rambo, it's one of your favorite things, and you're right? It's one of the best examples. You know how I can prove to you what you said about Obama are doing? Because probably the number one comment I get from normies when I speak to them, the people that believe everything they're seeing on the television is real, the number one conclusion that they've logically reached on their own is that Obama's pulling the strings. Everyone I know, they all think Obama. Well, how did that happen? Without that type of messaging, they wouldn't have connected those dots.
Right.
Did you guys see what?
As we always like to say, Rambo, when you see things like when you know there's more going on and you see things, instead of reacting to the shadows on, Plato's cave wall, that we, ask ourselves, look around at the normies and see how it makes them feel, because how they feel about what happens is more often than not, I think, the point in a psychological war.
Okay, you're right. And you know what? I watched, and this is not to throw shade. This is legitimately for comparison. I stayed tuned to the Badlands coverage, Patrick, of the election day. And the mass majority of people that were on there were of the mindset that it was going to be stolen, that there was going to be majorly nefarious things that led it to go down days and days worth of counting. And sure, we're seeing that in Arizona. But the ultimate result was not that. The ultimate result was what the guys that followed Q thought, which was there was going to be a landslide. Because, in my opinion, the fifth generation warfare led you to believe through the stolen election in 2020, and Donald Trump won because they overwhelmed Hillary Clinton in 2016. Sorry, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And now we watch this landslide, which that stayed nose into the drops and paid attention to, called outright. And now we're seeing what's happening with Kari Lake. It's 53-47. Stop it. That post from 7 years ago. How does that hit?
Yeah, such a great point.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I think that the 2024 election invalidates permanently the notion that 2016 was just a case of they let one get away from them, So if in 2016 it was the case, as many have surmised and I have entertained, that the cheat machine just wasn't robust enough. They didn't have their cheating dogs out there nearly enough to make it so that Trump became president and Hillary Clinton they just took him by surprise and they decided, well, never again. And that's why 2020 was stolen. If that was the case, they would have stolen it again in 2024. So I think we had an opportunity to revise our worldview a little bit based upon what we're seeing here in 2024. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think the best explanation so far is that patriots are in control and we are being ushered through a series of kabuki theater events to slowly get us awake without us flipping the fuck out and hurting each other.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this is part of that process. And I think we're now, how far along in the process are we? Dave, you say 4 to 6%. I think that's optimistic. I don't know what it is though. I think it's 4 to 6% will truly never be saved. And maybe we're at 70% now, just ready to rock. And you probably have about 30% of the people who would still vote for Kamala Harris. And then maybe you only have 10% of the people who voted for Kamala Harris enthusiastically. But still, that's 20% of the people that you got to keep going with.
Yeah. We voted for Trump because we love him.
Just to be clear, I don't think we're at that 4 to 6. What I was saying before is I think we're a lot closer.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
To that, that direction than what we think, which is even based on this election, you would think based on this election, the popular vote that we're at like a 52, 48 country. I don't believe that. I think your numbers are a lot more accurate.
I think when you look at like Elon and some of the other polls that have gone out, now it's not scientific, but I've seen hundreds of thousands of votes on these polls, which I think gives it a little more credibility. But we routinely saw the 75-25 split somewhere therein. And I think that's more accurate and indicative of
I
the
think so
political
too.
climate.
You know, the thing that I think they would respond about those polls on Twitter would be, well, there was an exodus of the Kamala voters after big, dirty right-wing Elon took it over, which I don't have a response to because all of this is just affirming the consequent fallacy anyway. But I think that I agree with Awakened Outlaw. Yeah, those polls on Twitter are far more likely to be accurate when you have a large sample like this. Man, it's hard to fudge that level unless they just have algorithmic fudging on Twitter, which is of course possible as well.
Yeah, and then there's multiple of those really large sample polls, and they all came out the same. Even when the Krasensteins put them out, multiple ones, and they kept getting destroyed. And I would argue that people like that have a much larger percentage of followers that lean toward the Kamala vote. And by the way, it's worth noting that a lot of us voted for Trump, that we love the guy, and a lot of Democrats voted for Kamala because they hate Trump, right? It's not the same dynamic.
You know, and I think it's important to remind people that you can't outvote an algorithm. Period.
Nope. Ever.
Full stop. Right? Like it's, and I know we've brought this up before, but I think it's important to remind people. Like when you have a machine that can arbitrarily, at will, allocate votes however you want, if Donald Trump gets 100 million votes and Biden and Harris gets 0, you hit one button and you change it to 51 million for Harris and 49 for Trump, and he loses every single time. So when you understand that, then that goes back to what Patrick was saying about 2016. Then that would dictate that in 2016, somebody stopped the algo enough for Trump to win. In 2020, somebody didn't stop it enough for him to win. And
in 2016, I look at the
2024, and now somebody stopped it again. Yeah.
You're skipping a little there, Dave. That's all. Go ahead, Ao.
Yeah, I just look at 2016, and the way I always thought it worked out, which makes the most sense to me, is white hats, unbuggered, enough buggered machines in certain districts in the swing states to plan, because Trump had to win lawfully, right? I mean, I believe everything has to be done lawfully for history's sake, because we have to justify what's being done. And if you look at Hillary, she didn't go to the swing states and she didn't campaign there because what makes the most sense is she thought it was in the bag, right? They all did, because I believe it was in the bag, but I do believe that's where the Patriots would have stepped in, and, you know, they just never saw it coming. But 2020 again, I think the same thing. Trump told us they're going to steal it over and over. They're going to steal it. They're going to try to steal it. They're going to steal this election. It's going to be the most fraud. And that's what happened. And this time around, he kept saying, they're going to try to steal it again, but this time we're not going to let them. You know, effectively telling us exactly what we're seeing play out.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I didn't listen. I expected a steal on election night.
I did not. So here's, and I'll tell you, I'll give you even further explanation on the same point. And I got to say it. I just feel like I have to, because people just don't take a far enough step back and look at it. And, when we had the COVID epidemic, whatever the pandemic that we had with COVID, right? It was plastered all over every television, on every radio station, all over the internet, death counters, COVID. Put your mask on, 6 feet away. Amplified messaging has never been so obvious to me in my life. Now, take that example and apply it to everything we've seen. Donald Trump told you for months leading up to 2020 that they were trying to use COVID to steal it. When it happened, we had an unbelievable digital army that amplified the hell out of everything. Cardboard on the windows, ripped seals on the back of machines. People were looking for Wi-Fi connections, Sharpie Gate. It was amplified that it was stolen. They were pulling out suitcases from under freaking tables. Freaking Ruby Freeman got an award by Joe Biden. How does that make you feel? Right? So Ruby Freeman is now made a hero when we all saw her pass a USB to somebody because that message was amplified. And it infuriated the mass majority of people that are logical thinkers, which I think the mass majority of population is good. And I think they can think on their own. Unfortunately, there is a small portion of the country that's been getting smaller throughout this process that believes everything the TV tells them, just like you said, because they just hate Trump. They believe he's an egomaniac, he's a racist, everything that the TV said. However, that TV messaging, that amplified messaging got so ridiculous that most people jump ship. Do I think that we just watched a free and fair election? I absolutely don't. I think that every single state showing that those are the ones without ID is a message to us. It's another amplified message. All of the states that require or allow ID turned red, and all of the ones that don't require or even more so don't allow ID turn blue. Stop it already. Right. You kidding me?
I think the only exception, I think New Hampshire was listed on that as not requiring photo ID, but I think they do. I'll check on that. But yeah, overall, the map tells the story, right? The only reason why you don't want people to show ID is to cheat. Now they can come up with whatever justification. Oh, it's racist. You know what's racist is telling me that black people are less able to get an ID than white people. That's racist on its face.
Look, just like I talked about teachers earlier going into indoctrination camps in a very young age and coming out and turning around and indoctrinating the youth, I believe that even the very smartest people in our movement, and this is not, again, to be made to be offensive. I respect and love everyone's opinions in this movement. I believe that without all of each other, without all of us together, we don't win. I believe that the details should be talked about amongst friends as long as we have the ultimate goal. But it's my opinion that some of the smartest people in this movement get tied up in the weeds and they can't take the step back and remember everything we've seen. If you remember everything we've seen, the details become a little bit blurry and you understand that we are in full control.
And by the way, that's a great way to realize that Alex Jones is Bill Hicks.
Right. Well, you know, this all goes, I just love Plato's allegory of the cave because it's so apropos to what's happening here. And even some of our guys, I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but look it up if you're not. We probably shouldn't just get into that now. But even our own people, and sometimes I'll admit myself, you get caught up seeing something in the news and react to it, which is why I like typically wait, because we forget that what's being shown on the cave wall by like the fake news media that a lot of normies are seeing. We forget, or some of our own forget, that it's not always what's going on, right? That in fact, it's there. We would use that to also influence how they're seeing things, but that doesn't mean we're the ones that have already stepped outside the cave that are aware that reality exists out there. But you know, like I said, if you're not familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave, and you don't want to read it, there are videos on it on YouTube, for example, or Rumble, and I would encourage you to go look at it because it's synonymous with also with the Matrix. You know, just the general idea that we exist in a false construct, or we did our whole lives till we woke up.
Do any of you remember the ending of the Matrix trilogy?
I remember very well, yes.
So they unplugged us from the Matrix just to replug us back in.
No. They did give us a choice because the ending wasn't for everyone. Mm-hmm. And so the choice to know was ours. And I think that that's so true. I think we're going to be given an opportunity to know things about the world that we might not want to know. And I'm freaking cool with it because
there's a lot of things I think we've learned that I wish I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to remind people that, you know, it's not, I don't want to spike the football in anyone's face, right? I'm not happy that we're right about this. And I think that that's an important message that we can let people, we're trying to red pill people. I don't want to be right about there being a global sex trafficking ring run by our political leaders are involved in. That's not a good thing, right? And I think that's important in our messaging because it kind of changes the dynamic. Like, I'm not cheering for my side being right. It sucks that we're right about a lot of this. It's terrible. And I think that resonates better with people that are waking up as opposed to us like gloating and, look what we were right about.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are so emotionally tied that they've gotten hurt enough that they want nothing to do with, like I watch Mike Flynn Jr. out there right now. He doesn't care about unifying right now. He cares about justice. And I respect it. I see his point. I don't necessarily agree, but I absolutely respect his point. And I think a lot of people believe that way. So I got one more thing I want to ask you guys before we start to wrap up, maybe read some rants. These two things that I'm about to show right now are deltas. Okay. And right before the show, I went and I searched some things. So this is one of my favorite drops. For anybody watching the show, most of you are probably well aware that Donald Trump spelled stolen election with 2 L's many, many, many times. Yep. Many times. There was a whole string of times he did it like at least 17 times in a row, right? I'm joking, but you guys get the point. So let the unsealing begin. Here's that L that we thought was happening. Let the D class begin. This just happens to be an 11/11 Veterans Day Delta. Okay. Indictments coming. So I took this and I went to Google and I did what I do, right? I use Brave, I use them all, but I went to Google today and I just put news, sort by date, and I wrote the word indictment. There's like 50 of them today. They're not FBI, by the way. What indictments against top Jackson's leaders say? This is just one story. This will go on. I have 7 or 8 of them pulled up, and there was 30 or 40 of them. I highly encourage you guys all to go search whatever search engine you use. You're going to find that's just one.
Right. And that's also indicative of how a RICO case works. You roll it up from the bottom.
Okay, exactly. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at a former police officer getting indicted for a sexual act against 2 minors. And so Awakened Outlaw, you're saying that a RICO rollout of indictments would start with things like this and then just gradually go up the chain?
Yeah, that's my understanding. And I think we've seen it. We've seen a ton of pedophile rings brought down to date. Like, it's just being one after the other in these indictments. So yes, I believe, you save the top guys, the leadership, the shot callers are last. But in this case, a lot of these people that are being indicted might have already been indicted and already given testimony, right? It's just the public indictment drops. And I think that's very likely the case. And all these people rolling on the people above them, especially when they find out the depth, the severity of the charges and the punishment for those charges. I can't imagine many, of the non-shot callers wouldn't roll. But it makes sense, right?
You'll notice in the indictments that I pulled that are all current to today, there's a mix between human and child trafficking and governmental corruption. All of them.
And you'd be remiss if you didn't amplify exactly what AO was just saying. The number of human trafficking rings, just go back over the last year, the 200 people, 300 people, 500 people, 150 people. These rings have been going down left and right. And this is interesting. So Rambo, these are all this is all
today,
in the last couple of
days. Last 6 hours. No, this is literally the last 6 hours. All of and there's more. I just pulled the ones that were drug, child trafficking, human trafficking, and government corruption.
Yeah.
Leaders of China-based chemical company indicted for role in fentanyl crisis.
Remember those lists where we had? I mean, how many unsealed indictments? So this unsealing, the methodical unsealing of all the unsealed indictments.
You mean the sealed indictments? So it's telling us in these news stories that these indictments are being unsealed, and they have been sealed for how long? Do we have details on the sealedness of these indictments?
I
Well,
don't have
the initial drop was what, 2018 when they first started pointing us to this, and back then it was like 50,000.
I mean the news story itself. Is the news story giving us information about whether this was an indictment that has been sitting on ice for years? Because that's really weird. You got a sealed indictment. It just sits in a lockbox somewhere, and then they just bust it out and say, bam, you're going to prison. So I want to learn more about how that works in real life to see if we can't get a better understanding of what's going on.
So in this first one, just as an example, they're not FBI, by the way, what the indictments against top Jackson leaders say. It does not say how long that the indictment has been sealed. However, it does say it was unsealed November 7th. Right. So this has been sealed for a period of time.
Which maps to what we think is going on.
Correct.
Yeah, I think you'd have to go in probably individually to each of those cases.
I don't think they're going to tell us how long they've been sealed. I don't think
that's. I bet you we could find out.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's available on Pacer or not, Rambo. To be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
Federal prosecutors say that between October 2023 and May 2024, Mayor Lumba, Director Attorneys Owens and Jackson, City Council members, Narenbank, whatever that word is, Lee, were enthralled in a plot to carry out a bribery scheme to enrich themselves. October 16th, 2023, quote.
Rambo, I guess since we're going down that lane, this is the lane we all live in with this operation, right? The question now becomes, are we really seeing these indictments being unsealed now?
Well, it goes back to Trump's quote, as far as I'm concerned. Trump just told us at the beginning of this show through the clip that I showed that's 2.5 years old that they're the ones that are really under investigation. What I believe we've been watching is a cover story, let alone a Great Awakening. This is a multi-layered psyop. We have global operations going on. We have federal indictments and investigations going on. And we had what we would consider to be this amplified messaging Great Awakening process.
Right. Did you ever read that drop? I'm trying to see if I could find it, but I don't want to take you too far off track, but there is a drop that talks about the disposition of the sealed indictments and basically how they actually at one point had, here it is. If you pull up drop 1927, it talks. Yeah, I have it up here. If you want, I can pull my screen up here. It's just something I'd love to get your guys' take on it because it's something I've always had my eyes on. This drop here, 1927, August 19, 2018, talks about subversion, consequences. It refers to Executive Order 13818 on obviously crimes against humanity. That's what this second paragraph is. But down here, January 1st, 2019, Section 12, in accordance with Article 33 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, as amended by Section 5204 of the Military Justice Act, the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security, will issue non-binding guidance regarding factors that commanders, convening authorities, staff judge advocates, and judge advocates should take into account when exercising their duties with respect to the disposition of charges and specifications in the interest of justice and discipline under Articles 30 and 34 of the UCMJ. That guidance will take into account with appropriate consideration of military requirements. The principles contained in the official guidance of the Attorney General, which is a civilian position, to attorneys for the federal government with respect to the disposition of federal criminal cases in accordance with the principle of fair and even-handed administration of federal criminal law. And then down here, what is highlighted, sealed indictments. If you read that 3 or 4 times, what it's basically saying, in my humble opinion, is they updated the UCMJ to allow the military to be the ones to take care of these sealed indictments.
which would go.
Well, the
So-
disposition of charges that represents the final outcome, right, of a prosecution or
Right.
arrest.
Right. So the only reason I bring that up is because since we're all kind of in this lane of a lot of what we're seeing is a show, and I hate to say it that way because I know people get, not everything is fake, but my point is when we're starting to see all these stories, Rambo, that's a great find to find all those stories happening today. I guess what just comes to mind right now when I see stuff like that is that stuff that's actually happening. Like, are they actually going out right now and unsealing and rounding these people up, or has a lot of this been maybe taken care of already and now it's being put out in a controlled manner, just like everything else is a presentation of real events, just in a different way?
Well, look at New
I
York
don't know,
City.
but
Look at New York City. Damn near the whole administration's walking away, or they're getting fired, or they're getting indicted. That was happening
including
before
the
Donald
governor
Trump. Right.
of the state.
And then you have and that's where you have to kind of use your logic and say, well, wait a second. If we all know this stuff, we've all been talking about this. A lot of you guys have been talking about this for years longer than I have. And we've all been talking about it and looking at sealed indictments, and it's in the Q drops and everything else. Does it make logical sense that all these people are just left out there to fly around and potentially run, and now they're just getting taken in? Or are we watching yet another controlled presentation of things that have happened in a different way? I don't know.
I think we're still left with questions. I think that this is a lot of speculation. I think that there's a lot of dots connecting potentially, but we don't know for sure. That's all. That's all
Exactly.
cool, and that's this show is okay with having those discussions. I think that we are far from seeing the end of this, and that's why I brought up that drop earlier where it said note the past 2 years, note the next 5. I think that when that ends with Patriots are in full control, that also ends in July of 2025. I don't think that we're at the end of what I believe to be the operation by any stretch of the imagination, and we can debate that all day long. I would like to do one more ending segment here before we get out of here. And I would like to transition into something just a little bit more real and personal, if it's possible. There's a clip that 2 of my favorite dudes on in Abs and Stormy Patriot Show did on their show last night. And I would like to show that clip today. I don't know if any of the 3 of you would be willing to share any of your personal stories after hearing this. I've done mine about, ad nauseum at this point, right? Ex-addicted. I was in jail many, many times. I was extradited across the country in federal custody. My father died the last day that I was in prison. And I missed his death, but in the hospital room, his dying wish was for everyone in that room to go vote for Donald Trump. And through shame, guilt, and remorse, I had to figure out why. Right? I let that man down who was my hero for decades. I lost my son, I lost my family, and I lost most of my friends. And that was even before I became a conspiracy theorist, right? And then this movement gave me a new purpose. So the guy you see in front of you today has come light years. Now, I have to pull it up because I tried, AO was here. I tried to record it like 10 times before the show, and I kept getting interrupted by some sort of notification. But I'm going to pull up, I know the timestamp. I want to play just maybe 5 minutes of Eye of the Storm and hear this and hear if you guys have anything to add. Because I think that personal stories are an important, sorry, I'm trying to find the clip at the same time. I think they're a very important part of the timing of the process that we're in at this point. Hold on. I'm on the wrong Eye of the Storm, I think. Here we go. All right, here we go.
Says in a tweet, be anxious for nothing, but in all things by prayer, petition, and thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts Patrick? And your minds in Christ Jesus. Yes. Philippians 4:6-7. Now have a great week and go do the very best you can. #Monday Musings. I love his posts, man. He has so many posts like this. It's great.
Yeah, he's a great dude. So over on the right, I watched this video and I thought it was absolutely perfect for the moment. Okay, because we just got out of this election, and what was supposedly made like the biggest point, which it didn't really end up to be the biggest point, but it's all that the Democrats could talk about was abortion, women's rights, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Now, this woman, I'm going to just kind of let it play out, but just watch the whole thing. It really, really pays off. And it was really kind of spiritually and just overall impactful when I saw it. So get ready and just watch her story.
Yeah, I'm eager to see this because I only watched like the first couple of minutes while setting the show up. And you said, no, man, don't finish it. Like, wait till we get on air live and watch the whole thing, then get my honest in the moment reaction. So looking forward to this, friends. Enjoy.
I was just sitting in my bed and I remembered something. And this is a story that I haven't shared on here. And I just felt like I needed to get up and I needed to tell it. Like, I ain't having time to put makeup on or prepare for this in any way, but it needs to be told, and it's for somebody. So in 2002, in January of that year, my biological father committed suicide on my birthday. Crushed me. In February, I lost custody of my daughter. In March, I lost my job. In April, I was about to be evicted from my apartment and lose my car. And I had not spoken to my parents or my family in like 6 months, and I was heavily addicted. In April, I also got pregnant from a one-time thing, and I didn't know what to do. But I remember thinking and having this overwhelming feeling like, this is not going to work. I can't have this baby. I can't even take care of myself. I've lost custody of the one child that I have. My parents don't speak to me. There's absolutely no way that this is going to work. And so I scheduled an abortion because that made sense to me. It made sense to let this child stay with Jesus, was my thinking. Let this child stay with Jesus and not bring it into my crazy life, because my life was in shambles, absolute shambles. I was so addicted. I was losing everything. I had no support because my life was a wreck. So I scheduled an abortion. And I remember a few days before the abortion was supposed to take place, I just remember falling on my knees in my apartment because I was so scared. Like, what if this is the wrong decision? And I remember telling God, I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I don't know if this is the right decision or not. Like, is this wrong? It just almost seems wrong to let this baby come into my life, to already put it at a disadvantage, or to just let it stay in heaven with you where it's beautiful and peaceful and it won't have to come into my mess of a life. I was like, but I don't know what to do, God. And so you've got to let me know something one way or the other. Like, I need to know in my heart what to do, because right now I'm mad and I'm angry and I don't want this baby. And I'm pissed off that I have this decision to make now. So God, you've got 3 days to let me know what to do. And that was that. And I was going to work at the country club for a golf tournament, and nobody knew I was pregnant there. Nobody knew that I was struggling with this. And so I would sit at my tent, and when people would come, I would give them their drinks and we'd make small talk. And then when it would leave and I would have a moment to myself, I would just put napkins under my eyes and I would just start crying because I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden there's a guy that comes up, and he comes up to me, and I had worked for him a couple of years ago and hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he walks up to me and he gets his beer and he goes back to walk back to his golf cart, and he stops and he turns back around to come towards me. And then he stops and he goes back to his golf cart and he sits on it. And then he gets up from the golf cart and he comes over there to me and he says, Angela, I just had to tell you something. Like, I don't know if this is the right time or place to tell you this. And I almost didn't think about telling you because I just got a beer and I didn't want you to think that I don't know what I'm doing or that I'm being a hypocrite. He was just like, but I just had to let you know. He was like, I've really been praying for you lately. Like, you've just been on my heart. And when I tell you, have you ever seen Mortal Kombat? You know, where they get like this ball of energy and they just like, whoa, and they just shoot it at you. It felt like a literal ball of energy hit me right in my chest and just went out. And it felt like in that moment, God was saying, Angela, if I've put you on his heart, somebody that doesn't see you every day, somebody that hasn't seen you in years, I haven't forgotten about you. I still see you. I still know what's going on. Like I'm working. Instantly, all the hate and all the fear and all the anger that I felt towards this baby was gone. And it was as if God was saying, Angela, when Moses stood at the Red Sea, he had no idea how he'd get across. He didn't know it was impossible. Like he had no way to get across. All he had was, his only option was me. Angela, this is your Red Sea. Your only option right now is me. If you'll just let me work and let me do something, I'll part this Red Sea. I'll get you and this baby across. And so I just looked at him. I started crying. I was like, you have no idea how perfect your timing was. You have no idea how bad I needed to hear this. I quit. I quit. That was it. I told the guy at the country club, like, I'm going home. And I remember I got in my car and I went and sat in the parking lot at Hibbett Sports and I just wept. And I was like, okay, God, if we're going to have this baby, you need to prepare my parents' heart because I'm absolutely terrified to tell them. Like, you just have to let them know because if they freak out, I'm going to freak out. And I waited 3 days. And 3 days later, I drove up to my parents' house for the first time in 6 months or more. And I walked in and my mama looked at me and she said, Angela, what are you doing here? And I was like, I just needed to come see you. And so her and my little sister sat down at a table and we just started talking and I couldn't take it anymore. And I just blurted it out. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. And my mom slaps the table. And she looks at my sister and she said, what did I tell you? And my sister looked at me and she said, Angela, 3 days ago, Mom was sitting in her room and I heard her just like groaning and travailing and interceding for you. And she got up and she came into my room and she said, your sister's pregnant and she's thinking about not having this baby and we've got to pray for them because God has a plan and a destiny for her and that baby. And she's thinking about ending that baby's life and we have to stop it. And she said, and we just started praying and praying. And it was at that moment that I was at the country club thinking about this abortion I'm going to have in 3 days. And at that moment when that guy, Jody, came up to me and he was just like, I've been praying for you. And when God was like, this is your Red Sea and I'm going to part it. If you'll just let me take control of this situation, I can make it work. That baby is 21, almost 22 years old today. I still had a lot of work to be done on me, but God made a way for all of us. My faith was this big. I had this much. I had just an idea, just a thought that it might be possible, that God could make it work. It was just this much. If you're in that situation and you just have just this much and you think it might be possible, that God could make a way, that it could work out, you take that and you run with it. And you give him the opportunity to show up and show out in your life and just show you that he is a God of working the impossible. That's what he specializes in. If he'll do it for me, he can do it for you. I hope you guys are blessed and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day.
So I played that because after 12 years, I got my son back because of you three and everybody in this movement and women like that. So it meant a lot to me when I saw that played on that show last night. And I didn't know if you guys just wanted to talk about thoughts on what she said or anything personal that you might have. I'm not putting you on the place. Personal stuff is personal. But it hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw that. So I would have been remiss to not show that on my platform. So I thank those guys for highlighting her. And Ao, do you have thoughts first, buddy?
Yeah. Wow, that was powerful. Something really interesting about all of this, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but percentage-wise, the number of people that have woken up early that also have damage in their lives or really big things like this that hit her is off the charts, right? And alongside that in parallel is the aspect of finding a new or better relationship with God. And there's so many people that I've talked to that can confirm that. And the reason I know it's also true is because I have my own story along those lines without getting into it. But the parallel of my waking up, and it wasn't a straight line, right? But the influence of God on my life has changed immensely and it's evolved at the same time through this. Because I do believe this is biblical in nature. And given the size and the scope of what's going on, I mean, if this, when we talk about, what's biblical or what's not, I mean, this is the largest, most important thing ever to happen in the history of man as we know it. It's larger than all the world wars because they're part of this. So I just see God's hand in this in so many ways, and the testimonies of people like that had such a profound impact on them, I think is just part and parcel of what's going down in this grand paradigm shift given a name. But it's really powerful stuff.
Dave, you want to go?
I to echo what Ao was saying, I think I can't remember if we've spoken about it on here or where it was, but I know it's a common thing that we all know. We characterize what we're living through as the Great Awakening, and there's so many metaphors about when you just study spiritual awakenings or any type of awakening, the metaphor of the phoenix rising out of the ashes, or a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, all those different things that probably all those different things that I personally dismissed years ago and didn't pay any attention to until I went through my own issues that I've been public about. I don't need to get into it again here, but I do find it very interesting. I mean, that when you watch, I think the reason that whether it's Eye of the Storm or over here on this show or wherever else, that we can all get together and I'm watching the chat as that video is playing, and you're able to sit with thousands of people and kind of all have the same reaction, is because I think at the end of the day, everybody in this movement is just a microcosm of the larger biblical event that we're living through, which is this reawakening of the world, the reawakening of humanity, the reawakening of each of our countries, right? And so it's you start to realize, like Ao said, that the more you start getting connected with, again, the three amazing people that I'm fortunate enough to be on the screen with here right now, and all these other people, and the people we're going to see this weekend at GART, and the people we've seen at Reawaken, and all these different events, you start to realize that I don't know why. I mean, I have to. All I can do is chalk it up to God, right? They tell you. You said you were. Q tells you were chosen for a reason, right? We were the first waves of people across, and whether it's because of our past experience or the trauma we've been through, or a combination of all the above, we all have something that we're some way in which we've reinvented ourselves, whether it's health or business or a combination of everything. And I think that's why we're here. And so that's why when you see videos like that, there's not a dry eye in the house, because I think there's something that binds us all together. There's many things, but one of them is through all this different stuff we're living through, we've all been forced to take a look inward, to take a look at the way we do things, how we treat other people, where our priorities are, et cetera, et cetera. And, again, it's if you had told me a couple of years ago that I'd be sitting here in this position and have been connected with so many amazing people, like I said, like the three of you on the screen, at that time, at a very dark time, I would have said, F off, get out of here. I'm just going to be sad and depressed and move on about my day. But there was a lot of really good people around me, and everyone who they all know who they are, that said things like that. That said things like, God's got this, and trust God, and just keep doing what you're doing. And lo and behold, they were right.
God does have this, and we're living through an era when I think many of us are moving from at least I have moved from a non-believer's perspective to a believer's perspective over the course of this information war. I started this information war as an academic atheist. I was still a conservative, but an academic atheist, very anti-abortion because killing a baby should not be legal. But we are also moving away from an era in which killing a baby is thought of as women's liberation. And that's a really healthy thing for women, because we see these brainwashed feminists thinking of the right to murder an unborn child as the height of freedom and the height of women's rights. And that's got to fragment something in their souls, because women were made to be mothers. Women were made to be more caring for a child than any of us. It is the classic inversion of the good to say that the true expression of being a woman is having the right to conceive a child and then exterminate it, is the ultimate inversion of the good and making it evil. It is the ultimate hijacking of what it is to be a woman and turning it towards the cause of evil. And I think throughout this info war, as more turn to God, as more realize the nature of the world in which we live, the nature of man, the nature of woman, and the nature of child, and the nature of the three as they go together, it is almost like watching the healing of the world, because we've had Roe versus Wade overturned. It is now completely socially acceptable to say all abortion should be illegal. That's a huge, huge step. And God is making that happen. And I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm honored to be here with you all three today.
Amen.
This show always ends up being freaking amazing. It's another example of God being in complete control, because this legitimately, this platform has been built on the relationships and the support of this movement 100% through and through. I can plan a show all day long, but it never goes that way, because I always have such amazing patriots like you guys on here with me. Let's just do this to wrap up. I just learned a lesson, guys, out there in Rumble Land. Because I went to Badlands to pull up Eye of the Storm, I lost all of the Rumble rants. I don't have a plugin.
I have them.
Do you? Can
Yeah.
you? Oh, thank goodness. I was going to tell them all I'll read them next time. I was going to go into my Rumble and dig and have to find them. If you want to read them, I would.
I did the weirdest thing. I just opened them right up and said, maybe Joe will need them at the end. I can do them all right now.
Thank you.
Now, I want to apologize to anybody who ranted before Quinny 63, because this is when I pulled them up at 12:09. So 9 minutes and 42 seconds in, I pulled up the rants. So bear that in mind. I might have missed one of the beginning ones.
I'll look. If there's any we missed, I will acknowledge you tomorrow when we have Chad Stewart on. But go ahead.
$51 from Quinny 63. Quinny, you're the best. Cheers to three of my faves getting together. Met with a group of 40 Rambo, NewsTreason, and Badlands fans last night. You all are keeping us sane. See you all at GART. God bless our veterans. Thank you so much, Quinny. $121. Wow, how generous. Auntie AJV, good morning, gentlemen, and go Nicholas. I want all the buttons from this young, creative entrepreneur. Awesome kid. Thanks, Rambo. Much love, Auntie. Thank you. $5. Katie Ford. We have a Newsweek link. Wondering if this is a real thing.
I had that link up.
Great. Okay. Are they going to try to flip this? So, Joe, if you could grab that. $2. Red-pilled Patriot 82. Hey, Rambo and friends. Happy Veterans Day. Trump and the military took out the 13 bloodline families in late 2016, 2017. is certainly a possibility. $50, Ashley Summer 111. I love all of your brilliant minds and look forward to meeting you all at GART this weekend. Thank you so much, Ashley. Looking forward to meeting you too. We also have NewsTreason being a monthly supporter. Thank you, Dave. $2. B. Puffnack. We have been hearing about the hacking of the machines, but not how they got in. If you want to find out, look into the county 911 centers, specifically the crime databases. Hey, there's a lead for us. Thank you for the super chat. $10. Rom 1314. I think this means, I guess, Romans 1314. I go back and forth on full control, but every time I watch this show, it helps ground me in full control. All four of you are fantastic at breaking this stuff down. Thank you. And thank you. $10. Backdoor Biden. Hey, Patrick, you muted me over a year ago from Badlands. I've become a monthly supporter. And rant either. All right, Backdoor Biden. I'll go ahead and fix that right now.
This is why we had Patrick read them.
Backdoor Biden.
Jim Moore is now a monthly supporter. Epic. Thank you. $5. Beachside. Hey, I know this guy. Great show. Great times. Great movie. God wins. Howdy, Pat. We got the landslide now. We get the election fraud reveal. Thank you so much. That's an OG Threadfest guy right there. $10. Nurse Laura. Love you guys. Love you back. Thank you for the money. And there we go.
And I do have a couple over on pill.net. So 412, love Adel, by the way. If he's on, he's not on. Adel has his own show, 412, over there on. Actually, Adel's on Badlands, isn't he? Is Adel still on Badlands? Patrick doesn't know. That's really funny. He does a show. I know better than you. I'm a big Badlands fan. Adel does a show with, quite frankly, and Red Pill 78 over on Badlands. Go check them out. I can't remember what it's called, but I know all three of those guys. They're awesome. 412, get some shades. Keep crushing it, boys. Thank you very much. Chatty KC, gifted a cookie. Thank you. And Woken Walked, gifted a cookie. Who in the heck is cutting onions? God bless you, gentlemen. I needed to hear that. By the way, Fizzy P. I don't know what that means, but FTW. That's it. Let me say, actually, there's two real quick ones I want to say thank you before we do our final thoughts here today. So mypillow.com, you guys know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Mike Lindell kept the election integrity conversation on the tips of our tongues for 4 freaking years, between how many symposiums and different events. This dude risked it all for the movement. And if you want to support this show and also support him, please go over to mypillow.com and save up to 80%. Use promo code Rambo. And then this project, which I absolutely love, it's got a whole bunch of amazing Patriots and Anons on it. Kofefi.coffee. I don't even share my personal link on this one anymore because Pepe Deluxe has done so much to help me personally that I just like to throw the website out there. There is a way that you can support this show, and that is to specifically buy Rainbow Roast, which is down here at the bottom next to Beer at the Parade. But I highly suggest you go and support any of the people that are on here. There's Kaidi, there's Pepe Deluxe, there's Enoch, right? Sarge, Awakened Outlaw. You got Brenda, who's a moderator right here on my channel, on my Telegram. I believe she helps moderate many, many channels. You got Swampy there, Brian Cates, Boone Cutler, AU. There's Seth Keschel, right? You can go right up the list. Carly Bonet, Patriots Helping Patriots, Mindy, and you also got Julian's Rum. So if you want to support any of those amazing Patriots or Anons, it is kofefi.coffee. Thank you for letting me do that. So to round out the show, if anybody has any final thoughts, Patrick, we'll start with you. I would love to hear anything about any of the projects you're working on, whether it be more about Tulip Blooms or where people can find you. Anything else you want to drop before you go? Please, by all means.
Check me out at tulipblooms.shop. Another thing I didn't mention is the castor blend serum. It's 40% castor oil. My wife tells me, Patrick, you're not getting Botox on your forehead, are you? I said, no. No, they told me they wouldn't do that because that would make me look like I had a fallen forehead or something. But she said, when you have no wrinkles on your forehead, guys, I'm pushing 50, for God's sake. Go to tulipblooms.shop and get the castor blend syrup. Use promo code Rambo.
I hate to say it, but you look damn good for 50, bro.
I don't turn that down, even coming from a dude.
I'm 22.
Bunch of liars.
All right, Dave, go ahead, buddy. Drop your info.
NewsTreason.com. That's our link tree. You can get to everything there. Rumble, Telegram, X. Tomorrow night, I had to take a charity show tomorrow night. Oh wait, no, that's Patrick Gunnels will be on tomorrow night. Looking forward to that at 8 p.m. Yeah.
Did Bay Theater Dave just type Patrick Gunnels, the best head in Badlands? That's not something I want to advertise.
How does it?
I can't wait to get to Gart. How much
phrasing?
Bad man lands.
We're
really
gonna
funny.
change the name of the show from Rambo and Frens to Rambo and Phrasing because it's. But no, and then let's see. So I'll have Patrick on tomorrow night, Mike King Wednesday night, and then after that, we're all going to be at Gart, and I can't wait for that. So looking forward to it. And gentlemen, as always, it's an honor every time we get together. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Rambo.
My man. What's up, Ayo? My bestie buddy, bro.
Yeah, well, I don't do anything special other than jump on as guests on other people's shows. I'm on X mainly at Awakened Outlaw, for what it's worth. But I will say in kind of closing that, and this is something that I challenge myself with, but if we embrace the process of this, going through this paradigm shift together, that I think it challenges all of us to reevaluate and revisit ourselves, right? And how we can be part of the solution and improve our outlook, improve how we treat other people, and personalize it. Because if each of us does that, the collective amplification of the ascension of the rise in the frequency, forces of good through prayer, etc. I believe in my heart of heart that matters. It's incredibly important, and it doesn't end just because we got Trump into office. I mean, that's awesome, but I believe it's just indicative that we're moving into a new phase. I don't know exactly what it is. My guess is, retribution and justice phase, which I'm all for. But even during that, I mean, it's to keep our eyes on the newcomers who don't know the details of what's going on. And a lot of this is going to be very difficult for them to absorb in a shorter amount of time than we've had, right? We've had years to acclimate to this crap. So to be cognizant of that and work on ourselves, that's what I can do. And I'm just suggesting that's something that everybody else thinks about.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to say, first and foremost, my Rolodex is becoming full of seriously nothing but people that I've looked up to for many years before any of you knew who I was. And for that, I will never stop being grateful, especially that you guys come on and take the time to talk to me and the rest of people that watch and follow this platform. Just to be real with you guys, I'm going to Gart this weekend. I cannot wait for it. But just so you're aware of how hard we're trying to get out of this full-time job, I am slamming 3 shows, this one included, into this week, along with 3 night shifts. I leave for work in exactly 59 minutes. But there will be a show tomorrow with Chad Stewart. I'm going to go to work from 6 to 6. I'm going to drive the hour home, and I'm going to take a 3-hour nap, but I'm going to get up and do that show with Chad. And then I'm going to go back to work at 4:30 p.m. and I'm going to get there at 6 and do 6 to 6. And I'm going to drive home and I'm going to do a simul stream with the guys over there at Truth Stream. So I'm really excited to do that on Wednesday. And then I will go to work all night and I will come home and I will grab my little bag and I will go get on an airplane to go hang out with these guys at Gart. So I have a whole total of 6 hours ahead of me of sleeping for the next 3 days. I hope that you guys come and hang out with me while I do it. It is going to be a marathon. I cannot freaking wait. Hopefully that hour and a half of sleep will be enough to catch me up to hang out and have a good time at Gart. But we are on a mission, and that mission is to, first of all, stop burning trash and killing myself every day at this job. And the second one is to continue to build this family and these amazing patriots and anons that come on this show and hang out with me. So one more time, guys, I humbly thank you all for being here. It's awesome. to hang out always.
Thanks,
With
buddy.
that being
Appreciate
said,
it, guys.
yeah, we will see you guys all tomorrow here on Rambo and Friends. Please go check out all of these guys on their platforms. Much love. Peace.